Dr. Pam Spurr. You're here with me on the men's radio station, and the show is repeated on Friday at 4 p.m. on both the men's and the women's radio station. It's Trending with Dr. Pam, and not only do I have fantastic guests, but we always look at a few of the trends on social media and what they actually mean to our lives, and not just to the politicians and the celebrities who are setting those trends. Now, please don't forget to give us a follow on all social media platforms or the websites for both the men's radio station and the women's radio station, which are .com websites, and definitely get involved because there's shows for everybody. Now, I want to get straight on to my first guest, who has been probably the most regular guest I've had, and he's always brilliant. Now, he is part of the multi-platinum selling group, The Overtones. He's also a radio and TV presenter. He was in the final 8 of the X Factor in 2014. On Twitter and Instagram, he's at J James, and he's joining me right now. Hello, darling.
Hello, Dr. B. So good to see you. How you doing, my darling?
And all the better for seeing you. I'm really well, and I'm so glad that you're all better and you could join me today.
Yeah, I know. I've had a bit of a rough ride over the last sort of 2-3 weeks, to be honest with you. I've had the bullet flu, of all things. But yeah, no, glad to be feeling 100% again now. But yeah.
That smile is back. Love that smile. We've got Helen. Good afternoon, lovely lady. And
Hi,
then
Helen.
to you, our lovely Jay. Charlotte says, hi, Pam, hope you're well. And let's see, Charlotte, hi, Jay. Jane says, lovely to see you both. Anne-Marie says, hello. I know Anne-Marie only has a little bit of time. So sending you big love over to Holland, Anne-Marie. So let's get started. First off, how's the family? Because have they been having to baby you and pamper you? Are you one of these really difficult men when you're ill?
Oh, do you know what? I am pretty useless when I'm ill. And it's so sort of typical because when Victoria's a bit ill, I'm pretty tough on it, to be honest. I'm not tough. Of course, I'm caring and loving, but I've obviously, you know, I'm up on the BFBS 3 times a week, sort of commuting up and down from London, which is about a 5-hour commute each time. So she's kind of often enough when she's ill, she's kind of holding the fort at home and doing everything that needs to be done. So yeah, she doesn't get much respite, to be honest, when she's poorly. But yeah, when I'm poorly.
I was going to say, will she bring you a cup of tea every hour?
Yeah, she does. She takes care of me. She does. She takes care of me. But unfortunately, the kids over the last few weeks, the kids have been a bit poorly as well, and Vicky. So it's almost like we've been passing this little cold flu thing onto each other. And so, of course, what happens when the kids are poorly? For those people that aren't watching, I've got 2 children, 8 and 2. Okay, so Nova is 8 and Franklin is 2, and both they've got so much energy. But of course, when they're poorly, that's all they want to do is stay as close to mummy and daddy as possible. So they end up sleeping in our bed.
Yeah.
So of course, when they sleep in our bed, we don't get any sleep.
Yeah, and you get all their germs.
And you get all their germs. And so you're knackered. You've got, you're ill. You're not getting any sleep. And then what happens is they get better, but then they still want to sleep in your bed because they've broken the cycle. Now they're in your bed and you're not getting any sleep. Of course, what needs to happen then is you just sort of got to put them back in their bed and train them to get back into bed. But that takes all night to be put on. So we're in this horrible cycle at the moment of there's 3 people, well, there's 4 people in our bed, 3 people in our bed. And it's a bit of a nightmare.
Well, if you and Vic want any tips on the sleep training regime, call me. She knows I've done all those years at Guy's Hospital with the under 5s, and I'm really strict. I'll be strict with you and with mummy.
I think we're probably going to sort of juice up our energy and catch up on some sleep, and then we're definitely going to knock on your door because it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Yeah. But aside from that, everybody's well, everybody's happy, and yeah, we're blessed.
Well, listen, some more messages. Kirsty Sykes says, hello, lovelies. We mums just carry on when we're ill. We have to. We have to. Yes, that's so true. Anne Marie says Nova and Franklin have so much energy, so she knows about them. And
You do. It's so true. Mums do. I was, you know, I had my mum and my sister. My dad worked away growing up, and so my mum and my sister sort of raised me, and both were amazing. But again, you know, it set a precedent really that mums do such an incredible job, and you know, Vicky's no different. She's a hero.
oh, good. I'm glad you appreciate her. Helen says feet in the face from the kids. Yes, when you're
Yeah,
sleeping with
yeah.
the kids in the bed.
Feet in the face. Where me and Vicky on the sides of the bed, just falling off, and the kids are starfished. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, really, they take up all the space.
Yeah.
I've been there with my own when they were little. Now, before we get into talking about vasectomies, and I'm so glad you're going to be sharing that experience with us today,
Yeah.
because for me, it doesn't make me cross my legs and cringe.
No,
If
it's
I
a
was a
bizarre
male
one.
presenter, maybe it would.
No, it's go on, that's fine. Sorry.
But I want to get your overtones news. Now, I believe there's been some rescheduling because of
Yeah, it's a bit.
regulation, whatever. Tell me what's going on. We want the scoop.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you. I mean, we're absolutely devastated
Sure.
last Friday. I mean, I've been on with you. You've been on with us, actually, you know, during our Sunday social lives and stuff like that, where we were so looking forward to sort of going on tour. You know, in 2019 was the last time we went on tour. Of course, we had the summer celebration tour scheduled, then the Christmas tour. So we've just had so many tours rescheduled because of this horrible thing that's going around the world at the moment. And we, of course, had this Christmas, November, December, in about 2.5, 3 weeks, we were sort of ready to go. And in all honesty, for the last few months, it's been absolutely it's just been heartbreaking trying to, even though certain things were organized, sort of just to make that clear, because we've had this in the diary for near on a year, even though certain things were organized in regard to technicals and production and the hire of Arctic lorries and things like that. Of course, in the COVID world that we're living in, things are just changing so instantly, and obviously things aren't available, or you know, certain things that were available are no longer available, and it's not really anyone's fault. Aside from that, the big thing was, of course, safety. You know, we're in a landscape at the moment where cases are still going up. Of course, we've got the vaccines and all those different types of things that are trying to protect us, but you know, we were sort of advised by our team a few months ago that this was going to be really, really tricky to pull off. And we'd sort of delayed, and we tried absolutely everything that we possibly could up to the final moments that we could hold on and to announce anything. And unfortunately, you know, we were unable to make it happen, which again, we were really upset about.
I can't imagine.
You know, it not only sort of affects everybody that we love to get out and see, but naturally it also affects us. You know, it's been a difficult world for everybody in the last couple of years. But you know, so what we then had to do was turn our attention to trying to reschedule. Rescheduling something like a 20-date UK tour also has its incredible challenges.
Well, everyone else is rescheduling. So many other bands and artists and whatever. Yeah.
Totally. And, you know, needless to say, the technical difficulties of still, you know, there's lots of theatres still out there on limited schedules and on demand. And so, you know, just trying to find the space to turn a 20 UK date tour, to move that essentially into May and June, again, it became really difficult. So what we had to do in the end is split it up into part 1 and part 2. So in May and June next year, we'd be absolutely delighted to get 13 dates underway for our 10-year anniversary tour. Some absolutely awesome plans of which we couldn't make happen this time around, and it's looking likely for May and June. So we just hope that, you know, things can sort of clear off and we're in a better place again come sort of early summer next year. So yeah, we're really excited to announce, of course, disappointment because we couldn't get out to everybody in a couple of weeks, but It's all rescheduled. And do you know what, Dr. Pam? By the time we get on tour, this has been rescheduled. It's been postponed. I think it's going to make it all the more special. It's going to make it all the more
People are
special because
just
we've been
going
so
to.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, they're going to
Everybody
totally
else
embrace
is
it.
in. So we're just looking ahead now. We're not trying to get carried away with the negatives and the things you can't control, because as is life, don't worry about the things you can't control. So we're looking forward to it next May, June, and there'll be some dates released within the next couple of weeks, which throws in the 7 dates that we couldn't do. So yeah, looking forward to it.
But you had got started with the dates, hadn't you? You
Yeah,
had done some dates.
No, we didn't. There's obviously a bit
I
of
thought
confusion. No, because one of the things we put out there was last night, with the inability to be able to get out to our 20-date tour, our UK tour with all of our teams, we of course, the next thing that we wanted to try and do was at least try and get out to see people. So to do some smaller, intimate shows, of which, from 2,500 people to near on 90 to 150 people max, and consistent of us 4 and the sound engineer. So it's so much easier. Do you know what I mean? To do. So we've, already done what we love to go and do, the Concorde in Eastland.
I love the Concorde in Brighton. I don't know the Eastleigh one, but I love Concorde Brighton.
So we've been able to then get a couple of those shows in for December. So we're still hoping to get out and see a few people, and just try and make Christmas as best we possibly can, because we're usually on tour doing it, having it large.
And having an amazing time. Well, I've coached musicians and artists over the years, obviously confidentially. I never mention names, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last few months, a couple have had to postpone things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all been due. What people don't understand about COVID, you might be able to perform, and the lighting person might be able to perform, but other parts of the production process have been pulled apart by illness or by regulations or whatever. And so it's just really beyond the artist's control. I don't think a lot of fans realize this, that there's so many pieces that go into making a tour. And those have all been falling apart for so many different people. I really feel your pain, really do.
It is, but Dr. Pam, you can totally. I can appreciate everybody as well, because I'm exactly the same. There is still, despite what's going on at the moment and the pressure so many people are under, there are people out touring amazingly and doing a great job and performing to some wonderful people. And so, the confusion about, okay, how come they're doing it and you're not? It's really difficult to not educate people, but kind of show people what the inner workings are and what happens behind these big tours. And sometimes you just can't make it happen because maybe someone else had sort of gotten there or done certain things. But also, when you organize a tour like this, anything could happen. Do you know what I mean? We could literally be a days away from doing a UK tour, of which it takes an incredible amount of organization, investment to try and make the best possible tours. If one of us, 2 of us came down, oh gosh, heaven forbid, the risks that lay in the audience, to other people. So, there was so many, it wasn't just one reason, there was so many reasons for us doing this. And ultimately, that the safety of everything and everyone in mind. We don't want to be going out to a show and doing a show that we consider, one of our best yet, and having people worried about turning up because of what's going on. So it was for us, it was the thing to do. And we're buzzing about it. We can't wait now for May, June. We're looking ahead. Hopefully we'll get out to a few different smaller places to see people ahead of December. And that's it really. We're sort of, just getting amongst those plans for May, June.
Fantastic. Let's see. We've got, Anne Marie saying it's going to be absolutely amazing. Hoping to get one of the smaller shows. Jane
Yeah.
is saying she's going to see both of you at the shows. They're all planning. Helen is saying she's transferred over to next year. So people, the message is getting out there, and people are going to make the most of it,
Totally.
when
And
it
you know what?
happens.
It's so great because we've got just some incredible fans who completely understand what the challenges are and what's going on, and also more importantly, just where we are and who we are as individuals. Because I think, and again, it's just me talking, and but again, a lot of people think there's a huge perception around a group that have sold millions of records and had so much success that, again, you're swimming in money, you're rich, it's honestly, it's not the case. We're independent artists who have had the incredible privilege of achieving so many incredible things. But a lot of what we do is reinvested into trying to keep us at such a high level and keep the dream real for us.
Exactly.
So we do everything that we possibly can. But I tell you what I'm looking forward to is the date that we announced last night, which is in Portsmouth. All the details are on our Facebook. But I've never actually done a show in Portsmouth. I served in the military in Portsmouth.
I was going to say Portsmouth military territory.
I didn't get into music until I was 24 years old. And it was all a bit of an accident how it all happened. Got injured playing rugby in Portsmouth for the Navy. And, and then ended up sort of getting a guitar as a bit of a drunken bet, and then got into music. So Portsmouth is where I actually found music. So it's going to be really pretty cool to go back to Portsmouth with the boys.
I love that. That's going to be fantastic. Well,
yeah.
Well done for you guys making the decision and sorting out what you have sorted out. Now, before we move on to vasectomy, so where's the best place for ticket information? Because this show goes out tomorrow, and then it goes out next Friday too. So
with everything, just go to our socials or go to the website, theovertones.tv, and you'll find everything. Any other info, just come and follow me. Hit me up on the socials at jjames, the Overtones at _overtones, and you'll get all the information. And we're looking forward to anything that we can do and get out. So
get out performing. Now, talk about performing. Obviously, you didn't want to have any more babies. So tell me about the vasectomy journey.
Yeah, so do you know what? It's one of those things where a lot of people sort of cringe. You go, oh my gosh, you shouldn't be talking about this and this, that, and the other. But do you know what? There's so much misunderstanding in regard to vasectomies, in my view, and I was sort of one of them. And one of the things that I didn't understand was actually it's so much safer when you come to the decision with your partner that you're happy and content and blessed with what you have, and that was myself and Victoria, two beautiful children, one of each, our dreams absolutely ticked off. We were sort of content, and we were like, okay, cool. So, what are we going to do from here? And there was discussions about the different forms of contraception. And then when we looked into it, it was kind of actually, again, had no idea that the vasectomy is one of the safest forms. It's so much safer for me than it is for any form of contraception for Victoria. So, in many ways, after childbirth and all the things that women have to go through, I was like, do you know what? I'm up for that. Let's go for it. So, start to look into it and what happens. And again, the major things that I was concerned about with a vasectomy was, would it affect me in any way? What does it mean exactly? So, when I got into looking into the stats that, vasectomies are 99% effective. Naturally, it's considered permanent. So again, if gentlemen, if you are thinking about it, you should consider it as a permanent thing, not just I'm just going to do this for a little while.
10 years.
I was concerned, would it affect my performance? Would it affect my drive, my sex drive, all that sort of stuff? And actually,
sorry, your fans are going to be getting a bit hot under the collar here.
I know, as I said.
I shouldn't make light about serious things, but
no, it's true. Why not? You've got, you have to. Otherwise, no one talks about these things, So, but anyway, I had lots of different concerns, and when I realised how simple it was for me, and in many ways the how safe and all that sort of stuff, I thought I'd go for it, and I did it, and you know what, I sort of look back and really, I can't say I enjoyed the experience, but you know what, it lasted all of which about an hour, and then I'd say I had an uncomfortable week, but then after that it was all good.
And is it local anesthetic or general, or how do they do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's local, and obviously there's different ways in which it can be done. But I sort of had local, and it lasted about 45 minutes, and it was pretty awkward because I walked into the room, and it was fairly obvious that they recognised who I was and what was going on. And then when they asked me to drop my trousers, that was fairly embarrassing.
I'm sure it was.
Albeit it was sort of when you've got the nurse asking for assistance of another nurse, she needed an extra hand. That's all I'm saying.
I love it. I love it so much.
Needless to say, 45 minutes happens, and then they've got some VIP tickets the next Overtone show as well. So we're all good. We were all happy.
Now, was that NHS or private?
It was NHS, yeah. So I went for an interview because it is a serious thing as they consider it permanent. So I had a couple of different interviews with doctors who needed to assess my situation personally and what was going on in my life and with us, and they were happy that we were content, and that was it. And I think for about sort of 8 to 12 weeks after the operation, we still had to use contraception, and then there were tests done after that point, and then it came back to confirm that obviously it had been successful and it worked.
Fantastic.
And that was fine, so we were happy. So it was fairly pain-free in regard to anything that you ladies have to go through, and I would genuinely recommend it to any guy that was in the position. And it's it was definitely one of those things that men don't talk about, because I was on the golf course with 3 other guys, of which it came that the topic came up, and 2 of the boys were like, "Oh no, no way would I get that done." And one of the other boys said, "I've actually done it," and and it opened up the conversation, and the boys were like, "Oh really? Oh, actually, what what's the? Oh, is it safer for us then?" And and so I was in just that experience with 3 other guys, I'm not, if I'm honest, Dr. Pam, I'm not all for sharing my private life, on live streams and shows and all that sort of stuff. But I'm content in talking about it, especially with a friend, someone like yourself who is such an incredible psychologist and does amazing things, that actually the word needs to be put out there that lads look into it, because it's if you're in the place with your partner, it's safer for you.
No, I think definitely. And Helen says it's so much better to talk about it. And did it scare you?
It scared the hell out of me. Yeah,
okay.
I'm not. Yeah, it scared the hell out of me. I was on the way. Victoria took me in the car, and I was like, I'm not sure if I want to do. I'm not sure if I want to do this.
And she was like, "You're not turning back."
She said, "You're not turning back." No. No, and all joking aside, she was amazing, and it was all good. So
Did you have to ice?
Oh, sorry.
To help with the pain. Did you have to ice that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was lots of ice downstairs, and naturally, the painkillers, ibuprofen, and all that sort of stuff. And I was fairly restricted with movement for a day or so. And yeah, I had an unfortunate situation where there was a small issue with the stitching and stuff. So I had to go back a couple of days later, but it was all good. And we were all, I was happy, and they were content that, there was going to be no infection, and they were happy with everything. So they were amazing. They were absolutely amazing. The
This
NHS.
is great to hear for the men listening and the women listening who might encourage their partners to listen to this. And I was going to say, Anne-Marie says her husband still has to do the test. So obviously he's had it done. And she says it's difficult to work listening to this.
Yeah. So sorry. Sorry. But a lot of people ask the question, and again, getting a little bit of detail, but people are like, do you still ejaculate and things like that after you've had certain operations? Yes. And and because they don't quite understand what happens, they think, oh, okay, essentially the vas deferens, which is the pipe basically that goes from the scrotum, once that's cut, is that it? And the truth is, no, it's not. You can still do that, and it still feels exactly the same as it did previously. That's the only thing that's happened, is the sperm supply is cut out by cutting those tubes. So everything that I've experienced is exactly the same as it did before. So gents, fear not, look into it. And
you should do a promotional video for the NHS. Honestly, the way you've explained it and your honesty.
I'm not sure about that, Dr. Pam. I'm not sure about that. I'm of course, I'm more than happy to share my experience with you and for people, of course, and listening and watching on men's radio, because it's so apt,
But a lot of men run scared and don't want to know, and so hearing your voice,
we just leave it to the girls, and
it's not fair.
It's not. It's not. So at some point you gotta stand up and be like, okay, what can I do here? What can I do? And it's the smallest of things, really. In regards.
Just thank goodness you didn't have to go straight out in one of your lovely fitted dinner jacket suits and perform on stage after that, because I think tight trousers would not have been a good thing.
In one of our incredibly fitted suits.
Yes, you do have very fitted suits, and you all look great in them. Now, we only have time for maybe to talk about one or two trends, because we were also going to do that.
Yeah.
And the first one I want to mention is Adele was trending today because people were waiting in a queue of 10,000 to get her 2 dates at Hyde Park next summer. And I was going to say, is there any band or artist you would have ever waited in a queue of 10,000 for? For me, it would be the Overtones, for sure. But was there any artist that you would do that for, that dedication? Because a lot of people were finding it like torture. They've been there for hours.
Oh, it's just because live music is so important to people. Music is so important to people, and I can completely get why people are waiting in line for hours on end to get tickets to see Adele. For me, who would it be? See, like, a lot of the music that I listen to are quite old, it's of the old school, should I say. So I'm a big fan of so many different artists. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'm a big fan of the Teskey Brothers, who are an Australian group, the soul group. And I can't wait for them to come back to the UK on tour to get tickets and go and see those boys, because their music is amazing, and it's just great. It's always in the house playing away. Yeah. So
And Helen says, obviously, you guys, she would wait in the queue, and she did so many times for Take That.
yeah, well, look, it was amazing. I remember when the tickets went on sale the first time. The reception was absolutely incredible. The website broke, so
That's great.
the reaction to people getting tickets was just amazing. And although we were like, oh my god, what we need to get the website back. What's going on? What's happening? We were also a little bit like, how cool is this?
I love it. Well, that is the note we're going to end on. I thank you again for your time, Jay. I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are, and you're just better from that illness. So great to hear all about the overtones and about the vasectomy. It's such an important message for men listening, and women who might be, have a male partner that they would like to try and encourage. And they can say, listen to this link. Listen to Jay James. If he can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Give my love to Vicky and the children, and speak to you soon, darling. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pam. It's always wonderful to come on your show. And I know that we were going to speak very sort of briefly about some other trends and the John Lewis advert, which is everyone's gone up in roar at the moment because a little boy is in a dress and all this sort of stuff, and the press have made it out, and the advert's been cancelled and all that sort of stuff. And I just want to say, because I know we were going to cover it, but do not listen to all of these media outlets that are trying to make this out, that the advert has been cancelled because there's a boy dressing up in a dress. It's absolutely rubbish. It is ludicrous. It is not correct. The reason the advert was taken down was because of the little boy was causing damage, albeit accidental deliberate damage, and that's not covered within their insurance. That was the only reason. Little boys, if you want to dress up in dresses, do whatever you want to do whatever makes you happy, because I thought it was a wonderful advert.
We only have one life. We have to live it the way we want to. On that note, I'll say goodbye and lots of love. Thanks again, darling.
Lots of love. Thanks, Dr.
Speak
P.
soon.
Bye, darling.
Bye. Now, my second guest is a best-selling author of 4 books, including How to Fight Fat Formation, plus The Beginner's Guide to Intermittent Fasting, and also the ketogenic, let me get that right, key. She is also a radio host, weight loss expert, recognized authority on inflammation. She's featured on countless TV shows and websites, and is the Huffington Post's top diet and nutrition expert. You can find her on Twitter at Lori Shemek and on Instagram at Dr. Lori Shemek. Her website is drlorishemek.com, and she joins me now from Texas.
Hello.
Hello, darling. Nice to see you.
Hi, Dr. Pam. It's so good to be back here. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for getting, well, I know maybe this is your normal time to get up, but I really do appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it very much. Thank you. It's so much fun to be with you, and you're a lovely person. So.
Oh, well, right back at you, darling. Now, last time we talked about so many different things, and today we're going to focus on gut health, which I know a lot of people are interested in. I don't know practically anything about it. So you are going to lead the way, and I know you use the term gut garden.
Right.
Where would you like to start in talking about this?
Yeah, I think the very first thing to underscore is that our gut is the epicenter, is I like to say, if you will, of every aspect of health and mental well-being, including our weight. And what a lot of people don't realize is that our immune system, 80% of it resides within the gut. Our weight is determined by the abundance and diversity of healthy gut bacteria that we have. And when we're suffering from inflammation, we can always pinpoint it from the state of our gut. So it's very, very important if you want to optimize your health and you want to reverse inflammation in the body to really focus on your gut as a foundational practice, okay? And so I like to look at the gut, as you mentioned, as a garden. So our gut garden is extremely important because you want to look at it that way and treat it that way. So one of the first things that I like to do is to pull the weeds, right? So
Okay, I like the analogy.
yes, we want to pull those weeds because they're not doing anything good for you. In fact, what we're doing is we are getting rid of all the unhealthy gut bugs that we have. And the majority of them are damaging your health. They're promoting inflammation in the body. They're promoting autoimmune disease. They're promoting just everything you don't want, weight gain. In fact, these bacteria store more fat than the healthy gut bugs, right? So they're very efficient at promoting fat storage within the body. And so what we want to do is we want to create a gut garden that is healthy and growing and an abundance of healthy bacteria. So we're pulling the weeds, the bad gut bugs, by not feeding them. And what they need.
How do we do that?
Well, what we need to do is to stop eating the junk foods. Sugar is their main source of nutrition, and in general. So when you eat sugar, you're not just momentarily getting the pleasure from it, but you're also feeding those unhealthy gut bugs. And what happens is they thrive and survive, and they need refined foods in order to do that. So they need refined flours and sugars and all the junk food that we all know what it is, right? And so that's pulling the weeds. We want to get rid of them. And when you stop eating those foods, then the healthy gut bugs have a chance to grow. And the good news is that our gut and our liver are the two organs that regenerate very quickly, that respond to positive health changes very quickly. And
well, I wanted to say, last time we spoke, I showed you that I had a couple big boxes of my favorite American candy bar.
Right.
And you were really oh my goodness, Pam, what are you doing? So I haven't bought any more since those.
Oh my goodness.
I did finish them.
That is fantastic.
Over the summer, but really? I haven't. And I've swapped to I've swapped to raw chocolate for treats. Is that okay?
It's perfect. It's in fact, dark chocolate, 70%, ideally 80% or higher, is actually considered a prebiotic, feeding those healthy gut bugs. So that's number one. You want to pull the weeds. Number two is you want to plant healthy bacteria within your gut. Okay, so you want to plant the flowers, if you will. And so you do that with foods, probiotic cultured foods like yogurt and kimchi, which is a Korean condiment, which is very spicy, but it's one of the absolute best foods you can eat to optimize your gut health.
I want to ask you about kimchi because I've been reading, good things about it, but I'm not really good with a lot of spice.
Right. So there are other ways.
Yeah. So and is there a non-spicy version of kimchi?
Sometimes you can find it. You do really have to look, and sometimes you can order it online, but generally no, it's difficult. But the other foods you can eat are olives and pickles. Make sure that they're cultured. Just make sure there's salt in and not vinegar. Okay, just make sure no vinegar is listed on the label, and then. So we have kimchi and we have cottage cheese. Aged cheeses are probiotic. Very good. Again, you're planting all those healthy bacteria in your gut.
What do you mean by aged cheese?
Like blue cheese, brie, Stilton, those types.
I love those cheeses.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And also they contain a compound called spermidine. And I thought you might get a kick out of that one, Pam.
Well, my last guest was talking about vasectomies. So.
Okay. Well, we're on a roll today. But yes, this compound is named after what it says. But this compound is in these aged cheeses, which benefit every area of health, cellular health, promoting autophagy and much more. That's another show, but
yeah.
So these are examples of, in sauerkraut, research shows that just 1 tablespoon of sauerkraut will change your gut health within 3 days. So that's...
I'm just going to have to make a note of that, because I actually like, just because I don't like hot,
Yeah.
spicy foods like kimchi.
Right.
I do
Well,
like
kimchi is
flavorful,
very
like
spicy. So
sauerkraut.
yeah, you have to be careful. So those are examples of foods. Now, so far we've pulled, we're not feeding the bad gut bugs, right? Now we're adding in healthy bacteria from these probiotic cultured and fermented foods. And then the last step is to fertilize your gut garden. And we do that with what's called prebiotic fibers, okay? And these are, it's like miracle grow for your gut. And these fibers are essentially like leeks and onions and garlic and Jerusalem artichokes, chicory, dark chocolate is also, it's a prebiotic and a prebiotic fiber like I was talking about earlier. Yeah. And then beans and bananas are prebiotic. Just
bananas,
think,
okay. I like bananas, but I
these
don't like them very
are
often.
literally feeding your very healthy gut bugs, and that's our goal, is to create an abundance of these, because when you have an abundance of these healthy bacteria from different sources and you're feeding them properly, then you're good to go. And you're preventing disease, you're optimizing your health. And if you can get 1 serving, like just a small serving is really all you need. You don't need a lot of probiotics, the cultured and fermented foods that I mentioned, and then make sure you get some, all vegetables really are prebiotic. They show that that vegans who don't eat any animal, they just focus their diet solely on vegetables, have healthier guts than those of us that eat meat, right? Because we're not eating as much of that prebiotic fiber as they are. And so, there are issues with that diet in the long run if you're not paying attention, however. And so you have to be really careful being vegan. But it's wonderful to know that if you take care of your gut, then you will feel better. You'll lose weight. You'll support your immune system, and everything you have on your health wish list will be benefited, because it's all about inflammation. And when there's inflammation in the gut, it's in your body. So that's the way to fix it.
And I bet I know the answer to this, but probiotic capsules, like you can buy here at like the big health food shops, are they not as good as just trying to get the probiotic from eating, bananas and sauerkraut and olives and garlic, or are they good? I mean, are they good to supplement?
Yeah, so, there's mixed research on it, right? And so we know for certain that there are specific strains that can benefit immune health, right? The rhamnosus species strain has been known to, it has research to support that it absolutely boosts immunity. And there's research showing that for stress-related conditions, depression, that there are specific bacterial strains that will literally benefit and improve your condition. And so, but in general, it's probably a good idea to make sure you get an overall balance, just insurance, right? That you're getting some healthy gut bugs in there. And so, so I've kind of flipped back and forth on this subject, but I really believe that, if you have a specific health condition, then it's a really good thing to do some research and find out which species and strain you need to take. And that's a really good thing to do. But I personally take a probiotic, and because, and I also eat cultured and fermented foods and prebiotic fibers to feed those healthy gut bugs that I'm ingesting. So, but you don't want to overdo it. There is no reason when you see in the store 100 billion CFUs, colony forming units. That's ridiculous. That's a marketing ploy, and you need to stay away from that. You don't need that much. At the most,
So what dose do you look for?
1.5 to 15 billion is adequate. Yeah, and I know it's a large spread, but we really don't know exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone's individual. Everyone is a different state of gut health. And so make sure that ideally acidophilus and lactobacillus, those are the two that you really want to make sure you do get, those two.
Yeah, because since we moved house, I've been plagued with colds. So I wonder if...
You're plagued with what?
Colds, head colds.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know it's stressful moving, and it was a very big move. But I wonder if boosting my gut with some of your suggestions will help something like that too. Will it help you?
Yes. 80% of your immune system resides within your gut. And if you're getting a lot of colds, that means your immune system depleted a bit. And so optimizing it is going to really, with focusing on probiotic health, because that's where your immune system resides. So there you go, and eating for gut health is the key as well.
Well, that is brilliant. I'm so thankful for that advice. And I know a lot of people listening tomorrow when the show goes out, and next Friday when it's repeated, will also find that beneficial. We didn't have time for longevity, but another show.
Yes. And if anybody, and if anybody has any questions, please reach out to me. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, or anywhere on my website. I will respond to you. So if you have any questions.
That is fantastic. That's drlaurie.com. Insta is at Dr. Laurie Shemek, and Twitter is at Laurie Shemek. Thank you so much, Laurie.
Thank you.
I hope we speak again soon. Lots of love. Enjoy
Bye,
your Texan day.
Thank you.
Bye, darling.
Bye.
So now I am moving on to my next fantastic guest. She's a psychologist, a presenter, a writer. She's a diversity ambassador. On Twitter, she's at The Real Angela M. And on Instagram, she's at Angela TV. Her website is angela.com. So that's nice and easy for you to check her out. And she should be joining me now to talk about...
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for joining me today.
No worries. I'm so excited for today.
Yeah. Well, when I emailed you about this, I was thinking about obsessive love.
Yes.
And how... it's come into my sort of zone with clients, a couple of clients recently, especially because I do a lot of work with coaching with singles, sort of date coaching. Mm-hmm. And you said, oh, well, this ties into some things that you've been doing recently.
Yes.
So I just wanted to start by saying, when people say to me, well, what do you mean by obsessive love? I often say, well, think about when you have your first high school crush and it really takes over it. And if the person smiles at you, you're on cloud 9 for the next week. If they don't smile at you, your world is devastated. Yeah. And all you think about is them. And exactly. and for adults to do that, most of us grow out of having those big crushes where we obsess over someone and learn to have a more emotionally mature relationship. So that's kind of when people say to me, what do you mean? And I say, well, just think about when you're back to a teenager and just the craziness,
Absolutely, yeah.
So how do you tackle when a client says to you, or it appears to you that maybe your client is in an obsessional type of love where it's taken over their life?
Yeah, I think that's a really good descriptor of what obsessive love is. And I think all of us have felt that at one time or another growing up. It's what we also like to call our chemical romance, because the dopamine's going, the oxytocin's going, the adrenaline's going. But when I see clients, a simple distinction for me is when it is demanding love. It's like I want to consume the other person, as opposed to real love, which is about the dance of give and take and negotiation and having that kind of back and forth conversation and being able to hear the other person and what their needs are. When you're in that kind of obsessive state, it's all about what you can get for yourself. And when you don't get it, exactly as you say, you're heartbroken, you're devastated. And on the extreme side, it might get into the realms of, that extreme jealousy and stalking and constantly wanting to know where they are and possessiveness. And it makes you feel terrible. So when I see people like that, that's often, they're somewhere along that continuum, and it's not doing them any favors at all. And it's actually cutting into that relationship quite badly, and the other person is pushing them away. So I think that's what I've been seeing quite a lot more of.
Yeah. And do you think kind of obsessional love has been fed by social media? Because if you take a fancy to someone on social media and start talking about them, you can then access, unless they've got a private or locked account or something, you can access what they're doing all the time. Do you think that feeds someone who has that nature or that propensity to obsess in a relationship?
Yes, that's a great point. And I think it's just another way of stalking someone, isn't it? And so before, you might follow them or know where they work or hang around outside their house, social media is a great tool and a great burden, if you like, where you can follow what somebody's doing, who they're involved with. You can even find out much more detail about where they've gone on holiday. So you can spend hours and hours and hours looking into the life of that person you're obsessed with, and have that kind of one way, that parasocial relationship where you think, we're both in this together, but actually it's just you obsessing over someone who may not know that you're there, or maybe trying to push you away, or maybe worried about how obsessed you are with them.
Yeah. Interesting you say that, how worried you're, because do you think this is one of the hardest things for someone to actually reconcile about themselves and develop self-awareness, that they do seek out these obsessions about people? And I think a lot of people don't want to see it that way. They don't want to see what they're doing as obsessional. They see it as love. I mean, so do you think is one of the hardest things, like, for you to sort of support someone in recognizing that's what they're doing?
Yeah, another great point. I think it's all about that ability to become more self-aware. And when you really believe you're in a relationship or you love someone and you believe it's been reciprocated, the last thing you're going to say to yourself is, I'm obsessed. It's not coming back. It's not two-way. And I might need to sort of explore what's going on for me. So often I will start with looking at somebody's history, how they grew up, because looking at attachment styles is a great way in, and it's quite a safe way in. How were you raised? And often what I find is that people who had a trauma or inconsistent relationships with their parents, sometimes they were loved and adored and sometimes they were just neglected and abandoned, can often lead to this confusion about what love is. So exploring that history is a great way in. So you wouldn't necessarily sit down and say, I think you've got this. It's like, tell me your story, because somewhere along the line that person is hurting. So what's hurting you when it comes to love? And so it's kind of inviting them into that conversation about the love relationship that they have with themselves and where they got that information and knowledge about what love means. And when you start to unpack that, it becomes a safer space to explore how they engage in relationships. I think that's how I do it.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. Sorry, my headrest is like falling behind me.
It's okay.
I hate radio that's actually broadcast live stream before it actually becomes a radio show, because you have to see each other,
Yeah.
I mean, I like seeing you, but you've got all this stuff to worry about.
I know.
Now, what I wonder about often with the singles I work with, and I'll have someone say to me something like, oh, I really fancy this guy.
Yeah.
And we've had a date or we've been chatting or whatever, and it's not really going very well, but I'm really going to stick in there. He doesn't seem that interested, but I think we've got something.
Mm-hmm.
That's very tricky when you want someone to start looking early in a dating situation at the fact that they might be 100% in it, but the other person isn't. and it's very obvious when you hear these things,
Yeah.
to someone like a coach, psychologist,
Yeah.
when someone tells you that, well, they're really not interested, but I think we should have another date because I think we would be great together. That is very tricky to deal with.
It is incredibly tricky to deal with because I think as the expert in the room, you're also worried about piercing their reality too soon.
Yes.
Because that can be devastating and be traumatic in of itself. Somebody's saying, but I'm telling you, this is my reality. So, another way of exploring that is to consider thinking about maybe you are speaking different love languages. So what is your love language? What does it look like for you? And is this person responding to that love language? Because I think that they have a different love language. And sometimes just looking at it that way can get somebody to start reconsidering, maybe this is a little bit unbalanced. Maybe what I'm looking for and is not what I'm getting back. And it is a very slow process. And I think that for me, it's the relationship that you have in that room with that client that is the beginning of the modeling. They can practice with you what's going on, and maybe even practice standing in that other person's shoes. So how would you feel if you were on the receiving end of something and you felt not quite ready, or you felt that wasn't what you wanted to hear? And that can sometimes give someone perspective. And also I like to explore what else is going on in your life. What else is productive for you? Where else are you getting fed? Because if you're getting
emotionally fed. Exactly.
Yes, emotionally fed, yes. If you're just getting fed from just one thing, and other things in your life are starving, so your friendships, you don't have much interaction there, you don't feel very productive at work, you don't have many interests, or it's all your eggs in one basket, that can be very overwhelming for somebody to believe then that, well, if I don't get this person, then I'm going to starve. Then there is nothing left. So that kind of all or nothing thinking can be quite catastrophic for someone. So beginning to invite them to think about other areas of their lives that are going, undernourished.
Now, I love the analogy you're using about, feeding and nourishment. And I think that making or supporting someone to be aware that other areas of your life are important too.
Yes.
And to try and manage them and get more pleasure and put more into them and those areas is really important. We don't have a lot of time. So I was wondering what your advice is to someone. Let's take the dating scenario. They've had maybe a couple of dates with someone and they feel it's too much, so they're not obsessing, but they feel it. How do you think someone can either set boundaries and perhaps guide that obsessional person into less obsessing? Or do you think it's a lost cause and they just have to set their boundaries and not have any more dates? What do you say?
I mean, I think, I'm very big on, listening to your own intuition. And, if you're picking up a bit of a red flag for you and you're feeling uncomfortable, or you're feeling as something, we talk about a lot about being love bombed. It's I can't actually think straight because this person is constantly in my face. Listen to those messages and actually have a chat with your friends and say, this is coming in at me and I'm not comfortable. What do you reckon? Because often they'll say, you know what, that doesn't sound great. And you must learn to listen to your own instincts, because at the beginning of a relationship, often that's the time where, your intuition is firing on all cylinders. There's something you're picking up on before you go all in. So listen to that. And, yes, absolutely. Put some boundaries down. I can't see you on Tuesday, but how about Friday? And if you feel that that's not being heard, then it might be time for you to draw a line in the sand and say, this isn't good for me. So it's about that relationship you're having with yourself. What's good for me? What works well for me? And what's my instinct saying? If I'm not comfortable, then what am I progressing, with? What's this relationship about?
Further? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That is fantastic. And unfortunately, we are out of time.
Oh,
We didn't get to love bombing, which we were really going to talk about too.
yeah.
And feeling devalued. But thank you so much for your time, Angela. And
Thank
your
you.
website is simply angela.com,
Yeah.
and Twitter is at the real Angela M. And Insta is easier. It's at Angela TV.
One day I'll get them all aligned.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and you
Thank
take
you.
care.
Take care.
And that's all we have time for today. I just wanted to say that I'm actually taking a few months break from the show. I have a refurbishment starting in my home. I have a couple new projects I have to attend to. And so I'll be back in early spring, and I'll look forward to that with lots of fantastic guests. Thank you so much for you joining me on the show here on Men's and Women's Radio Station. And until the next time, look after yourselves.